Education is changing, and it's changing fast. Tonight, we begin a new series on the National, The Education Revolution. Lesson number 1, the MOOC. It's a catchy acronym for something called the Massive Open Online Course. MOOCs are in their infancy, but their potential is huge. They're affecting the way teachers teach and the way students learn. That's because MOOCs can fill a classroom with 1 billion brains. The CBC's Duncan McCue has our story.
On the venerable UBC campus, an experiment is underway that may change higher learning forever. Rosie Redfield, one of Canada's leading microbiologists, a professor for some 20 years, has long fretted over how few have access to science. Then she heard of massively open online courses, nicknamed MOOCs.
I went to the dean and said, I want to teach a MOOC. I want to teach this MOOC. I didn't say that because the jargon, I didn't even know what the word was. I just knew that suddenly there was the possibility of teaching a course to the world. Genetics is everywhere.
This is Rosie's pitch for her MOOC called Useful Genetics.
Weekly homework assignments with challenging genetics problems for students to wrestle with.
Over 20,000 students registered from all walks of life.
Someone who has a family farm and want to understand how to breed animals. High school biology teachers. A person in Pakistan who has cystic fibrosis, a serious genetic disease, and wants to understand it better. I mean, I'd be honored to be able to teach someone like that about genetics, because they really deserve to be able to learn it.
The Massive Open Online Course.
The term MOOC was coined by a pair of Canadian professors who saw huge potential in open online learning.
And all these blog posts and discussion posts, video responses, articles, tweets, and tags all knit together to create a networked course.
The idea, distance education via the web for thousands upon thousands of students. Not for academic credit, just a certificate if you finish. But no tuition fee is charged. 2 years ago, MOOCs caught fire in California's Silicon Valley, when Stanford University offered a couple of free MOOCs in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Over 100,000 students signed up. It was a eureka moment for more than a few profs.
For me to reach a comparable size audience, I would otherwise have had to teach my normal Stanford class for 250 years.
Andrew Ng, who teaches computer science, promptly took a leave from Stanford to start up Coursera, a company hoping to bring world-class education to everyone in the world.
Far too many people in our world today just don't have access to a great education. This is true in developing countries. This is also true right here in our backyards. The technology now exists for one professor to teach not just 50 students at a time, but 50,000. And this really changes the economics of higher education. It allows us to take courses from the best universities in the world and just offer them online for free. This map shows where we have schools all around the world, in the US and internationally, in Europe and in Asia.
Coursera is now partnered with over 60 universities, including U of T and UBC in Canada. The company is financed by deep pockets, hunting for the next Google. Almost 3 million students have signed up for hundreds of courses, everything from engineering to Aboriginal worldviews.
And I introduced myself today in Anishinaabe, the language of the Ojibwe people.
It feels kind of Facebook, but Coursera MOOCs have a start date and assignments and a final exam.
In a normal university, because of the limited physical capacity, we have to put up walls and let in only so many students a year. In a MOOC, anyone can sign up, and then the student signs up and watches a few lectures and decides the class isn't for them. That's fine. We just gave them a way to explore risk-free.
Or you may even be interested in a situation with a crane and trying to find the conditions that would keep the crane from tipping over.
And then I've got a sentence. The fat cat ate the big bad rat.
Back at UBC, Rosie Redfield is recording her first MOOC lecture.
Just as a bonus, I threw in protein folding and protein activity.
She's gotten the memo. Keep segments short, about 10 minutes, and TV friendly. It's a sharp contrast from a typical university classroom, the old school lecture from the podium.
People who spend a lot of time thinking about how learning works realize that you don't learn things by being told stuff. It's so easy to fall back on what they call the sage on the stage model, where I'll just stand up here and tell you stuff because it's so much easier. I think Coursera and the MOOCs are giving us opportunities to really pull ourselves away from that mode and to think more about what are we asking the students to do that will help them learn what we want them to learn.
Take two.
Welcome to our advanced course on game theory. This course is going to talk about how to aggregate preferences among agents, and then I'm already doing it wrong. Nope, let's do it again.
Across campus, a UBC computer science prof is taking MOOCs to a whole new level of production.
If I know that agents are going to behave game theoretically.
Kevin Leighton Brown just wrapped up a MOOC in game theory, the study of strategic decision making. Over 130,000 students signed up, 15,000 finished.
I kind of see MOOCs as the textbooks of the future. What they do is they make information delivery a lot more compelling than a textbook does. And so, we essentially, I think, see our MOOC as a way of taking this textbook that we've written and basically putting it into its next incarnation in a form that maybe doesn't entirely replace the textbook, but makes it accessible to a much broader group of people. Let me tell you a little bit more about what game theory isn't.
With 2 MOOCs under their belts, Leighton Brown and his Stanford co-teachers are learning what works and what doesn't.
But problems like this one are what game theorists call games.
Because his UBC students watch his MOOC lectures at home, Leighton Brown now devotes class time to working through challenges or one-on-one attention. It's called flipping the classroom.
It's not that important whether your plan is right. It's important whether your plan is of the right form so that you can study it and decide whether it's right. If you get to a place where all of the students have already seen the video, they already know the core content of the course, you can really make it interactive, you can find out where people are getting stuck, you can have them work with each other. I think this is a much more compelling kind of education than everyone just sort of sitting there and watching a show.
Discussion forums are a key feature of MOOCs. On a massive scale, it can turn into anarchy, but the game theory course hosts weekly online hangouts where small groups of students and profs get to chat.
Several questions on the forum.
Is there any relation between these two?
Experienced game theory used practically.
Caltech, a number of years ago, ran a series of experiments.
And students organize their own online study groups.
There's no question that, you get 130,000 people together in a course that they're paying $0 for. And the level of service you can provide them is different from a course where everyone's paying tuition and you've got 25 students. But I think ultimately we're going to find technical solutions to these problems. I think the internet has proven itself pretty good at managing really large-scale discussions between people, doing kind of information dissemination.
Indeed, game theory disseminated to the far corners of the North Atlantic, the remote and picturesque Faroe Islands, where Peter Smedskar enrolled, hoping to find solutions to the island's brain drain, studying game theory and other courses while on a fishing boat. He talked to me via the internet.
Even out there, I have an internet connection, and it's nice to be able to work 6 hours on the deck, and in the 6 hours I have off for rest and whatever else, I can catch a few videos on a course. I would never be able to afford most of these courses, not on my budget. MOOCs, they opened up a world of opportunity, a world of knowledge that I would never have access to up here.
MOOCs certainly face growing pains. How do you effectively mark that many students? What if they cheat? And how long will MOOCs stay free? Coursera brags it's growing faster than Facebook. Others are leaping on the MOOC bandwagon. Millions upon millions of students means vast potential profit.
It brings to mind the question of whether or not people really play the way that we are predicting. And
Stanford professor Matt Jackson, prepping his next game theory MOOC, observes educators and venture capitalists share common interest in free education in these early days. But
when you look at education and so forth, for years, a lot of the monetization has come through certifying that people have passed certain courses, so granting degrees. Here, there's something which ultimately people are used to paying for. And so the content isn't something where they expect to get it for free. and anticipate that it will always be offered for free.
Who will pay that price? Maybe employers eager to access a giant database of MOOC grads with proven job-friendly skills. Maybe students wanting a MOOC certificate to beef up a resume. Maybe just a blanket $5 MOOC sign-up fee.
If we're unable to serve the neediest people in our society, those that don't even have a credit card, much less $5, then, you know, I'm just not interested, just speaking as an educator.
And what were we going to use for cohesins?
For cohesins, we were going to wrap little ropes around them, but we sort of debated that we can also just stick them together and do that with a zoom.
Back at UBC, Rosie Redfield is using stop animation and candy to explain what chromosomes do when cells divide. For her, the MOOC is about sharing knowledge, in her case science, on a massive scale.
The core idea is to keep the basic stuff free. It's the bells and whistles that if you want this fancy thing, you can pay for it. But you can get the course without paying any money at all. Even the only thing you have to invest is your time and your brain.
Time and a brain and an elite university education is yours. Not to mention a global network of peers. No wonder universities are racing to find their place in the brave new world of MOOCs. Duncan McCue, CBC News, Vancouver.